Sunbelt expectations versus reality. The Georgia State Panthers on Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Dave Schultz back with another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. It's time to do the Georgia State Panthers expectations versus reality, and we have a special guest, former Ragin Cajun Farrod Gardner. Today's episode of Locked On Sunbelt is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, again, Dave Schultz back with another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's do these Georgia State Panthers because this is one team where Texas State and ODU, we don't know what we're going to get, but expectations right now for Georgia State are low. And I'm not sure why. They're picked to finish sixth. Phil Steele has them finishing sixth, only ahead of ODU. The coaches picked Georgia State to finish sixth, only behind ODU. You know, they're one of the guys in the, is there anybody else besides Grayson McCall who's a 3-year starter in the conference? Ben Woldrich, no. Gunnar Watson, no. Carter Bradley, no. JMU's looking for a quarterback. App State's looking for a quarterback. You know, Cam Fancher only started a half a season. Georgia Southern's bringing in a new guy. ODU's bringing in a new guy. Darren Grainger, outside of Grayson McCall, has the most experience heading into the season. So why are they picked to finish sixth? Is that because of the other teams, or is it because of Georgia State? Because last year, right, they picked JMU to finish sixth, if you want hashtag always a bright side, and they finished first in the division. So we still don't know. As of this recording, we don't know. I would say at least as of Thursday, JMU had not named a starting quarterback. All right. App State has their starting quarterback. Sean Clark's going to announce it on Monday. Again, Marshall's got Cam Fancher. Georgia Southern's got Davis Brin from Tulsa. Who else do we got in the East? Old Dominion has Grant Wilson. Backup from Fordham. He didn't even play last year. He's the backup quarterback from Fordham. So, it's interesting, so on their schedule, outside of Coastal Carolina, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you about Rhode Island, Charlotte, and Connecticut because I don't know. But outside of Coastal Carolina, Troy, Marshall, Cajuns, Georgia Southern, James Madison, App State, and Old Dominion, LSU, Jaden Daniels has probably more, if not the same, as Darren Grainger. But that's a different animal. All right. Darren Grainger has the most experience outside of Grayson McCall. And again, is there, between Grayson McCall and Bo Nix, one's got 4 years of starting quarterback. The other one is going to be heading into his fifth. So they may lead, those two guys may lead the nation. So Darren Grainger has 3 years of starting experience with the same team. And he made a nice leap in 21 to 22. He went from 132 yards a game to 205 yards a game. His touchdowns in the air went down from 19 to 16, and his interceptions went up from 6 to 4, or 4 to 6, as the case may be. But his rushing touchdowns went from 3 to 6. Yards were about the same. He actually had more attempts in less games played in 22. But the yards were about the same. So if he can make another leap and maybe a little bit higher percentage completion, it's not bad. Last year was 58%. The year before was 60%. And that's ridiculous because back in the day, if you did it 50%, you were really good, right? And anything over that was outstanding. But now the standards is higher with all the kinds of offenses that's run, and you really need to be closer to the 65% than 60%. So if he can take that next step and get it to where, everyone wants that Joe Burrow leap where you're going from 20 touchdowns to 60. No, how do you predict that? But if he can get somewhere between the 25 to 30 touchdowns in the air, throw for about 250 yards, get closer to the 2,500, 3,000 range, keep the interceptions under 10, rush for another 600 yards and a half a dozen touchdowns, and Georgia State's going to be in a lot of football games. Georgia State's going to be in a lot of football games this season if Darren Grainger can take that next step. And it does not have to be a huge step. Complete a few more passes, keep those interceptions low, and all of a sudden he's gone from 132 yards 2 years ago to 250 this year. That'll be pretty impressive. All right. That would be really cool. And I think they'll be in a lot of ball games, but they do not. If we're looking at the schedule, I mean, they get in the other division, they get the Cajuns at home, by the way, and Troy at home, by the way. There's not a Texas State on there. There's not an Arkansas State on there, and there's not a ULM on there, with all due respect. They do get ODU, but the last game of the season. So anything that Ricky Ronnie and Kevin Decker, the new OC, need to figure out with Grant Wilson is going to be figured out by then. So there's not an advantage of playing them late. If you wanted to, you want to play them early. We'll see how that works out for the Cajuns. Or maybe they have it early and you figure it out by then. But whatever the case is, there's not a real layup in the Sun Belt for Georgia State. So they're going to have to put it together. And it does really rely on Darren Grainger. That's the guy. If he could take the next step and lead this team to victory, and we'll talk about the schedule when we come back. Phil Steele says it's the toughest schedule in the Sun Belt. They have an opportunity to get off to a good start, get some confidence. That's a real thing, and go from there. And if just like losing can snowball, so can winning. And if you're in some ball games, and we talked to a lot of guys, at Sun Belt Media Days, we just didn't finish strong. We were in the games in the fourth quarter, and we ran out of gas. We lacked depth, injuries, whatever the case is. And I'm much more about reasons than excuses, but we got a lot of, boy, if we could finish. We're right there in the fourth quarter. We need to be able to finish. Darren Grainger is going to have Georgia State in a lot of fourth quarters. Can they finish? Now I'm about to do Dana Carvey doing Ross Perot. Can I finish? Larry, can I finish? Can I finish? So, sorry. So, that's where that's going to be for Georgia State. If Darren Grainger is playing like he did last year, they're probably going to be closer to 4-8. If he can take it to the next level, they may surprise some teams. Let's go over who they got, because it is, like we said, not a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination. All right. So when we come back, we'll go over the Georgia State schedule. They do have a really tough one. Don't forget, coming up at the end, we got Farrod, Gardner, former Ragin Cajun, non-drafted free agent in the Washington Commanders training camp. We have a new sponsor on Locked On Sunbelt. It is Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is the fastest and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 100%. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we got to try and do that. You never know what you might find. Gametime. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off today. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We got Farrod, Gardner, former Cajun, coming up here in about 10 minutes or so. feel like I'm doing the radio show on 103.3 The Go, maybe a little bit sooner. But let's go over the Georgia State Panthers schedule. Let me get it up here so I'm not looking down on at the magazine and looking at the computer, because they have a chance to get off to a good start. All right. First two games are at home. In fact, they're starting before everybody else next Thursday instead of Saturday. They're taking on Rhode Island. That should be a win. Do not discount UConn. I am one of those guys that UConn has been an embarrassment. I don't know if it's been a decade, but it's been bad. They used to be pretty good. They weren't bad a little bit ago, but they've been bad. Jim Moore Jr. did a heck of a job last year going from really embarrassing program to playing in a bowl game, regardless of how easy their schedule was. All right. They looked every bit as embarrassing early on in the year against Syracuse, and yet by the end of the season, they were in a bowl game. All right. They're at Charlotte. That could be a win as well. Charlotte's a reclamation project. So all of a sudden, you're starting 3-0. You're going to get some confidence there. All right. If you can start out 3-0, I mean, then the hits just keep on coming, as Daniel Caffey would say, in A Few Good Men. All right. You start out on the road at Coastal Carolina. What can you do there? You get Troy at home and Marshall at home. Are you 2-1 at that point in time? Are you starting out the season 5-1? Because then you get a couple of road games at the Cajuns and at Georgia Southern. I mean, again, and the hits just keep on coming. After that, it's James Madison, App State. You're at LSU for good measure. And at Old Dominion. So, goodness gracious. So, they have a real shot to get off to a good start and to get some confidence. And it'd be nice to maybe see some blowout wins if possible. But sometimes a win is a win. But you're going to find quickly, if you're just, here's the other thing. And I don't know how much the transitive property means in college sports. Sometimes it doesn't. But people like to do that. So-and-so beat so-and-so, so they could beat so-and-so, right? But how you play against Rhode Island, UConn, and Charlotte, if we're eking out victories, and though it's 3-0, that's not going to be a good prelude to Coastal, Troy, and Marshall, right? Troy's the defending champion. Marshall was oddly enough picked fourth behind Coastal Carolina, who was picked third, although Grayson McCall is the 3-time Sun Belt Player of the Year. So it's going to be really interesting how that all plays out for Georgia State. Darren Grainger takes it to the next level. Start out 3-0. Are those easy wins? Are we skating by? Is it a 3-point game in the fourth quarter and you're winning by 2 scores? Do you have to come back? Do you have to make a defensive stand to win the ball game? How we win these games, although I'm a win and move on kind of guy, may determine on how it's going to go against Charlotte or against Coastal Carolina. Because, again, college football doesn't play exhibitions. Georgia State basically has 3 of them. Because those games, compared to like South Alabama, per se, or even Southern Miss, where you're playing out-of-conference games against Tulane and Oklahoma State early on. Southern Miss has, I think they have Florida State early on, Mississippi State later. Georgia State has Rhode Island, UConn, and Charlotte. Could start out the season 3-0. And then, although you start out in Sun Belt play at Coastal Carolina, can you take down Troy at home? Can you take Marshall down? Do you compete with Coastal on the road? And if that's the case, are you starting 4-2, 5-1? And you're 2-1 in the Sun Belt Conference? Now you get a little bit of confidence going on the road at the Cajuns, right? We don't really know what the Cajuns are going to be. The Cajuns have their own thing. They could be anywhere from 2-2 to 4-0. Minimally 2-2. Nothing worse than that. But they could start out the season 4-0. And so, you get the Cajuns and then Georgia Southern on the road. And then your last 2 home games are James Madison and App State. Not too concerned with the LSU. That'll be fun playing in Tiger Stadium, one would think. And then you're at Old Dominion. So you really have to get off to a good start if you're Georgia State. It's all about Darren Grainger. What did I read? They have five guys back on defense, although six of their top 8 tacklers are back. They have just 5 starters are back, but they returned 6 of the top 8 tacklers. And Phil Steele says they will improve on defense. We'll see. All right, so I think they're going to be a little bit better, but it's all about Darren Grainger, and it's all about getting off to a good start to get that confidence rolling into Coastal Carolina. Really important to be 3-0 and maybe some impressive wins along the way. Again, there's not many quarterbacks. In fact, there's one in the Sun Belt who has as much experience as Darren Grainger. All right. So I'm sorry to put all the pressure on you, Darren, but you're the guy. All right. Let's see you take that next step and lead these Panthers to some victory. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, had a chance to sit down with former Ragin Cajuns linebacker Farrod Gardner. He is in the Washington Commanders camp. We also had Andre Jones Jr., defensive end, and Percy Butler. They'll be on future episodes. But when we come back, we will sit down with Farrod Gardner after this on Locked On Sunbelt. All right, quickly, again, slow down a little bit on subscriptions. We're not quite where we wanted to be. We kind of wanted to be at the, 565 range, 570 range to only need about, 5 a day or so next week. So not sure why that happened, but I do appreciate everybody who has tuned in. I mean, we're at 557. All right. Maybe I'm being a little greedy. Okay. So we're not that far away, right? We sort of, we got about a week to go. So we need, instead of, 5 a day, we sort of right now need 9 a day. All right. So that's a little bit more than I wanted. We were ahead of the pace, and then we've slowed down the last couple of days. So hopefully we can pick it back up. It is really appreciative. All the subscribers. I mean, we're almost at, hasn't been a month, right? The 27th will be a month. We've gone from 369 to 557. We could be 200 in a month. From the 27th to the 27th. So really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. All right. Don't forget to subscribe in YouTube. That's what we're talking about, subscriptions. Also, it's a big help when you subscribe on the podcast, the audio podcast, Amazon, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you do Apple, please rate and review. That is a big help. So we're going to get close. We're going to be really close to 600. All right. Again, the pace is slowed down, but we're going to be really close to 600. And again, the next goal is 1,000 by Halloween. So hopefully the algorithm, the more you get, it kind of exponentially picks up, right? Because we were going from 2 or 3 a week to 30 a week. So, I mean, that's exponentially great. So I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please tell all your friends. Again, it's just like, if we get 100 per school, we've got ourselves a podcast. So that is the ultimate goal. Maybe even 1,000 per school. That's a little much. But if we can get 100 subscribers per school in the Sun Belt, we've got ourselves a podcast. All right. So let's head back to it. Again, thank you so much for everything that you guys are doing. You're really helping the channel grow as we're heading into the 2023 season. It is Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Had the chance to sit down with non-drafted free agent, former Ragin Cajun, now in the Washington Commanders camp. He is Farrod Gardner. Welcome back to a Thursday edition of Sports Chat. And we're going to do a little Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day on 103.3 The GOAT. We're going to talk to some Washington Commanders, some former Ragin Cajuns. First up, Farrod Gardner joining us, signed as a non-drafted free agent. Farrod, thanks for hopping on. How is the camp going?
Camp is going really well for me. It's been a grind, but football is always a grind. I'm happy to be here, and I'm very blessed to be in the opportunity that I have.
All right, so you were with the Cajuns from 18 to 22. So you saw the Cajuns build up, right? You came in Billy Napier's first year, and then you left with a Sun Belt championship. What was that ride like?
It was a build up the complete time. In 18, we went 7-7. We had so much talent on that team, and then we came back in 19 and stepped our game up, went 11-3, and we just kept upping the standard. We kept setting the standard high for ourselves, and Coach Napier and gave us the vision, and we just went out there and put the work in. So it was really good to play with a really good group of guys, and a lot of those guys have NFL opportunities.
So that 18 year was the Levi Lewis coming in every fourth possession, right?
So
he
yeah.
he led the nation in handoff percentages for touchdowns because Raymond Clay Jr. had like 3 80-yard touchdown runs. Levi would get one play and have to come off the field.
Oh yeah. Those were the days. I mean, real three-headed monster: Trey, Eli, and Ray, and then it just never stopped. So that was a beautiful backfield.
And how did you see the program build over time to get to that point where the only loss in the Sun Belt Championship year was against Texas?
I think it just was a collective, just watching that group of guys work, and the amount of talent that we had on that team was incredible. So we all knew it was only a matter of time until we got things clicking. We all just really had to buy into what Coach Napier was preaching to us. And once we all just really believed in him and we all wanted to go out and play and win for each other, it was just perfect. And now just looking back at it with those group of guys, we have so many memories together, just winning games, playing other teams in the Sun Belt or out the Sun Belt, just going out there competing and always being dominant. That's just one of the things I always remember. We got some guys on this team who played in the Sun Belt, and they always give me a little trash. And I'm like, our teams are better than your teams when y'all came out. So it's good competition. It's always fun.
We're talking to Farrod Gardner from the Washington Commanders. All right, tell Cajuns fans what happened in between. Last season, you left the Cajuns. Actually, I got the year wrong on the graphic. 21. So what did you do in 22? And now you're back with the Commanders.
In 22, I went undrafted to Washington. So I signed with them the day of the draft, undrafted. I was up with the team. I signed practice squad up until I think week two. Week 2, I got cut. And that lasted up until week 17. They brought me back the last week of the season. I came in versus Dallas. And then after that, they offered me a futures deal. And I ultimately went and signed a contract deal playing the XFL for the spring season. Just because I missed playing football and I had opportunity at that level, and I knew Washington would stay in contact with me. And after the XFL season, Washington reached out and offered me another contract, and I ultimately came back. And I'm very blessed and very thankful for the opportunity.
All right, so you haven't had much of a break. I don't think you're complaining, but my goodness, what was the XFL season like?
The XFL season, we started camp in early to mid-January. 10-week season, 10-game season, and then you have one initial playoff game, and then you have the championship game. So ultimately, a total of a 12 to 13-week season, kind of a bye week after the playoff season. At the playoff week. But it was a lot of work, a lot of really good talent in that league, a lot of guys, a lot of great coaches. I was very blessed to be able to play for the DC Defenders. We won 9 out of 10 games in the regular season, and in the XFL you get an extra win bonus every time you win. So that was icing on the cake.
Look at that, yeah.
We had some really good talent on that team, and a lot of those players are actually getting NFL opportunities. A lot of them guys are in camp. I think 4 or 3 guys are actually signed to the Vikings right now just from that team alone. So it was really good to go to work with those guys every day, just not as many resources, but we all had the same goal in mind, just come in, grind, go to work. We all are talented. Let's just show the world for another opportunity.
Talking to Farrod Gardner on 103.3 The GOAT and Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day, former Ragin' Cajuns. You were a linebacker here, right? And have you moved to the back line of the defense? Are you playing safety? What position are you playing?
I honestly will play whatever they need me to play. Right now, I'm listed at dime. So right now, I come in the game and I play dime. I play backer. But there have been times where I have been in the back end and I've been playing safety or nickel or buffalo. Whatever they need me to play, I'll go out and do it.
So you have some guys back there that you may be familiar with, right? You got your teammate Percy Butler, second year with the Commanders. He's back there. You also have a South Alabama player who was an all-pro special teamer last year, or Pro Bowl special teamer, Jeremy Reeves. How have they helped you in camp this year? Or are they, because you're kind of competing for their jobs?
Well, no, they both helped me on and off the field. Me and Percy are always going to be close like brothers. We came in 18, and so that whole time while we were in Louisiana, we always had a connection. So the fact that we got to come here together at the same time was just really nice. So me and his relationship is always going to be good. We always watch film, critique each other, and it's never personal. And Reeves is kind of the same way. You know, he was also undrafted and he had to work for everything he had in this league. So initially when I came in, he was like another big brother to me, always in my ear, you know, pushing the little small details to me, trying to help me just critique my game in different ways that I didn't know initially. And it ultimately helped me become a better player and a better person. So I really thank both of them, and I commend both of them, and I'm happy to be teammates with both of them.
Yeah, so there's not one, not two, we're going all LeBron James, but three former Raging Cajuns on the Commanders in camp. Farrod Gardner, who we're talking to with now. You got Percy Butler, and I don't know if it's the algorithms or whatever, because I'm doing a lot of Raging Cajun stuff, but it seems like Andre Jones Jr. is balling out. There's a lot of people who cover the team, like, because 7th round picks don't usually make the team, right? I mean, that's not great odds, but everyone thinks he's having a great camp. What's it like, having some former teammates and close friends with you as you're going through this experience?
He is. Dre is having an exceptional camp. You know, he's played very well in the last preseason game versus Baltimore and also in the scrimmages versus Baltimore, to kind of be specific. But I mean, it's kind of expected. You know, I already knew Dre from coming in. You know, me, him in person, we all had those talks. We have a group chat. You know, we always push each other every day. And so to see Dre excel at this level is just, it's amazing. You know, it's nothing new to us, but the media, you know, they don't really put the respect on Sunbelt schools like they should. So
right.
The fact that he's really showing up is just proof in the pudding.
If all three of you guys were from Carolina or Maryland or Georgia, no one would say boo. But oh my God, three people from the Raging Cajuns, and like Levi was like 30-5 as a starter. That's outrageous.
Yeah,
that's outrageously
I always tell people if Levi was 6'2", he could have been anywhere in the country, anywhere.
Yeah,
like Levi was such a dynamic player and a great leader for our team as well. Like that guy was a dude.
Yeah, he was. I think that's what Mark Hudspeth said. He's like, fortunate for us, Levi's 5'10". I think that's what he said. I mean, off the top of my head, so let's see. One loss was to Coastal at home. Another loss was Mississippi State. That's his first game as a starter, at least under Napier. Another loss is to Texas. So that,
that's it.
Not very much after that.
Not very much. Yeah, that's crazy. That's it. Yeah. Great resume.
All right, that's crazy. Let's wrap things up with Farrod Gardner with the Washington Commanders. All right, doing a little research, very little, looking in your bio. Is this real? Did you go to Coffeyville Community College? Wes Blankenship went viral with his Coffeyville high school football calls. You haven't seen those, but is that a thing? Did you really go to Coffeyville Community College?
Yeah, I really went to Coffeyville, played in that Jayhawk conference. You know, at that time they were limited on their out-of-state players too. So like if you were out of state, they were only giving like certain out-of-staters full scholarships. And I was one of those kids who got blessed to get a full scholarship. And I just played one season, but Coffeyville, Kansas, man, that's an experience.
Where is that? Because a lot of people know Hutchinson Community College, but where is Coffeyville?
It's down the road. So like Hutch is maybe like 20 minutes away. They're literally rivals. So like our first game when we played was Hutch, and they ended up winning. But I think that was one of my better games of that season. It was just in the really middle of nowhere. Like just Kansas was Coffeyville, Kansas was just all we had was a McDonald's and like a Long John Silver's, and like the Walmart was like 15 minutes away. So it wasn't a lot to do, wasn't a lot to go see, it wasn't a lot of options for a lot of stuff. So really all you had was football and getting your degree. Right.
Yeah. I spent a little time there in Wichita, but we went out to Medicine Lodge, and that, you're lucky if you hit two lights on the same road in Medicine Lodge. He is Farrod Gardner, playing with the Washington Commanders, formerly of the Raging Cajuns. Thanks for hopping on 103.3 The GOAT and Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We'll be watching you. Next week will be big. Good luck, Farrod. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.